Hey, it looks like we're live.
Yeah.
Are we ready?
Now, just for what it's worth, if later we decide that we're not going to be doing, which we hope to not have to do, a lot of post-editing with a third-party program like Camtasia or whatever, YouTube allows you to trim videos as long as they are reasonably around 2 hours. If you go above 2 hours, you lose the ability to trim. So as long as all the podcasts stay under that, you can jump on later and you can pull off anything from the start and anything from the end. You can't trim in the middle, but you can pull off on the ends to make it start right where you want and end where you want. So all this blah blah stuff in the future, you can just snip off right inside of YouTube, and you wouldn't even have to do any extra editing.
Good deal.
But you can't upload the audio track, though, I think, right?
I'll have to look at the annotations and enhancement screen again to see what all you can do without making a second video, but you can do a ton of editing right inside of YouTube. It really has come a long way.
Good deal. Well, Sean, why don't you get us started? So we have T-minus 54 minutes.
Hey, and welcome to the State of Tech podcast. This is well, I'm not even going to say bi-weekly. This is a podcast that happens occasionally, and we cover educational news and best practices in and around the state of Ohio and beyond. I'm Sean Beavers, one of the hosts, and I'm joined by Eric Kurtz, Eric Griffith, and TJ Houston. Guys, it's been a long time since we podcasted. I think it's been at least 5 years.
Well, I started growing my beard when we stopped, so it's been about that long. Kind of Rip Van Winkle-esque. How's everybody doing?
Well, it is wonderful to be back. Eric Kurtz, hi, joining from Spark in my Google Shrine. So hopefully I've got enough Google gear behind me. Get my Android on the picture there. There he is. Excellent. Very good. Glad to be back with everybody today. Hey, G, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. In my old office, my dirty workbench, and these headphones, which I stole from a student about 14 minutes ago. So I'm good.
We have very high production value here.
Yeah.
Spare no expense and whatever you can steal off of a student. And the
typically, when I do the podcast out of my home, I've got nice equipment. I light a candle, a little bit of incense, get the mood going. But here, no, it's
fire safety laws, no candles.
Yep, straight up.
Yep.
TJ actually built that Tim Hortons set behind him that you see. So
yeah, he's green screening right now.
Yep, it's all CG.
All right, and we're joined by 3 guests today. We have Erica Hartman, Anthony Lescree, and John Mansell-Pladel. And if you guys want to go ahead and say hi and tell everybody where you're from.
Hi, I'm Anthony.
Oops, we lost your audio there, Anthony.
Let's try it again. Hi, I'm Anthony from Spark. And I'm trying to keep the light in the back to a minimum so that I don't look like I have a halo around me, because I certainly don't. And the only reason why I'm here is I have a beard.
Thanks for ripping it in, Anthony. Moving on to the next guest.
Well, I'll go next. I'm John Mansell-Pladel. I work up in the northwest quarter for NWACA and ITC, and I also have a beard.
Erica, this will be interesting for you to comment on. Go ahead. Might have to unmute yourself first, though.
No audio there, Erica. Oh, I don't think Erica has audio. Do you know sign language? Can anybody interpret?
How do you say beard in sign language, or beardless? Yeah, TJ's got it. There you go. John has the sign. It's this. Yes. All right.
Oh, well, I guess we'll come back, Erica, if you want to see, I guess, what's going on with your headset or the audio. Our topic for today is PARCC, which I think is probably in the hearts and minds of a lot of educators, and certainly a pertinent topic. I know that we're starting our month, which we're entitling PARCC, the entire month of PARCC, the entire month of March, we are testing. So that's our topic for today. And one of the first things I think that we wanted to establish was what is the PARCC test, because some of you that might be watching our podcast may not know what the PARCC test is. I'm actually in Austin, Texas this week, and they have something called the STAR, so they don't even have the PARCC test. So does anyone want to kind of summarize what the PARCC test is and what it's all about?
Sure. I'll jump in a little bit here. I think it's really important, too, that, there's the PARCC test, but there's also AIR, and just putting it under the umbrella of next-gen tests, I think that's the first and foremost, because there's a lot of focus right now on the PARCC test, which is your ELA and math testing, and then the secure AIR, which is the science and social studies. And it is truly the next generation of assessments that we're starting to see. We're starting to see a lot more, all online testing. We're starting to kind of work out the kinks on what that looks like for our, the next generation, for lack of a better word.
And TJ, you're an actual park ranger, is that correct?
That is true. I actually ordered my badge a couple days ago, so it should be in.
Great.
Pretty soon.
Great.
At least before we start testing.
Good deal. Good to know.
Can anybody hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
I guess my PARCC headphones are not working at the moment. Bad investment. I'm actually sitting in the server room now. My name's Erica. I'm from New Jersey. I'm the technology coordinator at West Morris Regional High School District. And I'm happy to join today and answer anyone's questions.
So do you work with Sean?
I'm actually Sean's boss.
My condolences.
Yeah,
my true condolences.
Sorry about that.
It's okay. And I don't have a beard. Sorry to make anyone upset.
It's all right. That's just the two of us then. That's fine.
So does anybody else have anything that they would kind of want to add to what that next generation assessment, what are you seeing? Does anybody else have any other comments before we move on? Kind of talk about schools being ready and readiness and what everybody's doing and what they're seeing.
Well, I'll just add to what you said and talk about how it has had several different names, and I think we sort of started out by calling them the next generation assessments. But the difficulty, because the state has two vendors which are providing the test platforms, you've got the AIR platform for social studies and science, and you have the PARCC consortium is using the TestNav environment, which comes from Pearson, but they don't really have one central point of contact. So there was some confusion as to what we were going to call it. Was it PARCC? Was it AIR? Was it Next Gen? And then in December, they sprung on us that they're actually now going to be called Ohio's New State Tests. So that was the first time that we saw that was in mid-December. And then, yes, we've seen a lot of changes up until then. So I think that's what ODE is officially calling it, is Ohio's New State Tests, or eventually Ohio's State Tests will be what they will be called.
So is that going to follow for New Jersey as well, or are you guys sticking with PARCC, or you're going to go crazy and call it Texas testing or something like that?
We're sticking with PARCC currently. We're trying to really show people that this is not something new. This has been in the works for 3 years, although to most people it seems very new. We've been aligning our curriculum, the Common Core, for at least 3 to 4 years. And so these assessments are really a test of what we've been doing and working so hard in all the districts in New Jersey to do. And I think people just have to think that, the assessments that they used to make to test students in their class really have to start looking something like what PARCC is actually assessing. So people are going to have to learn how to realign their assessments in the classroom, which is a struggle.
And then if I can jump in, I don't know, Eric, if you want to pull up the screen that I'm sharing at the moment for the viewers at home. This is just a quick bulleted list of some of the things that we've sort of seen that make next generation assessments different. So to answer Sean's question about, well, what are these things? I'm sure there's more than just this, but some of the key things being that they're delivered online, they're highly interactive, dragging and dropping, clicking to highlight, that sort of thing. You got your virtual protractors, virtual rulers, virtual calculators. And as you go down the list, lots of different things, video, audio embedded in there, multi-part questions. You don't just have a single question, you answer it and you're done, but instead the first question then informs the second one, and then from there you go to a third question. A lot of those things, like Erica said, those are just good assessment things that we've been should have been doing for a while, or maybe have been doing for a while. But if all that students are familiar with when it comes to high stakes tests is number 2 lead pencil, fill in a circle, that type of thing, this is quite a big difference. So we may have been seeing a lot of these next generation things in our day-to-day assessments, which hopefully we have, but when it comes to high stakes tests, this is a pretty big shift to now be including all of those features in those next generation assessments.
One of the things that I've noticed is a lot of teachers are still thinking about planning for the testing in the way that they did in the past, and that was to basically give the kids enough tests that they would finally know the answers for those questions. And it's quite difficult to get the point across to teachers that by taking multiple PARCC tests, it will increase their ability to handle the technology portion of it, but it doesn't give them necessarily any information that's going to be useful for the actual questions.
I agree with you, but also I think, especially on the math part where you're dealing with the equation editor, I really think that students have to practice that online. And there's so many sites out there like 10 Marks, and I know Eric has a list of sites, we have a list of sites, but nothing exactly mimics what they're going to experience in the PARCC. I think that's probably one of the biggest roadblocks, is because we're having them do the tutorials and downloading the calculator, but there's only so much exposure you can get to that part. And I know from the field test, the biggest feedback was the actual equation editor was the biggest complaint from the students. So I feel like it's our job to expose students to that as much as we can, but I really wish there was some sort of a platform that had been developed before the test that the kids could have been practicing on for a while.
Erica, one of the problems here in Ohio is we've just recently adopted Common Core in most of our districts, and I've been sort of using another phrase with a lot of teachers I've been talking about. In addition to next generation assessments, I've been talking about next generation instruction, and how that's very important that they think about it as a complete new way of instruction, not just assessment.
No, I agree with you, and I think that it's a struggle to help veteran teachers with that, but even new teachers too. I think that of teaching us one way, the way it's always been done, and now it's really doing a 180. So it's really interesting to see how different districts across the country are implementing them.
I think it's been interesting that it's placed the focus fairly squarely on the idea of what technology skills the students need in order to be successful at testing, which then also reflects back upon the teachers and how comfortable they are with the technology, because they can be sometimes a roadblock. If their understanding is not good enough, then they can sometimes hold their students back. So it was a job of educating both the teachers and the students as to the testing, and to get them all comfortable with that kind of environment. And I think it could then lead, for those of us in the tech integration business, to more success with tech integration beyond the PARCC testing. So we've opened up the door to a whole lot more possibilities for using things like Google Apps for Education and learning management systems and other types of online instruction that perhaps we didn't have as full exposure to before.
All right, I just want to take a moment for those of you who are watching this live. Our hashtag is the State of Tech, so TSOT Live, and TJ is monitoring that hashtag. So if you have any questions for our guest today or for any of the State of Tech hosts, please use that hashtag. Again, it's TSOT, the State of Tech Live.
All right, well, Sean, do we want to jump into some deeper questions? I think that gives us sort of the big overview of what PARCC is. Our kind of plan, I guess, is what? To look at a few things like, are schools ready for it? And are students ready for it? And I know John's already hinted on this, but in addition to the challenges, are there good things that may come out of this? So why don't we go ahead and switch to our second, main point of today, and that is maybe from the school point of view, are schools ready for PARCC? And maybe some of you guys can, address that. Have you taken part in the testing days? How did that go? What lessons have we learned from that? What impact is this having upon schools being prepared? So we're kind of separating two things out here. The curricular end of it, are students ready? Do they have the tech skills? We'll talk about that next. But now it's more of, are schools ready? Maybe it's more infrastructure and management of the tests.
Well, I think a positive is that it's really forced schools to upgrade their infrastructure, even if they weren't planning on doing it, and also for acquiring lots more devices and testing. So I think that is a positive outcome of it. It's a lot of planning. It's a lot of working with business administrators and getting the board on board with all of these decisions. But I feel like we're putting more access into the hands of the students and the teachers by doing this. But it's a lot of work, and it was a lot of work to do in just under 3 years.
I guess I wanted to touch back on Anthony's point of, there's a lot of facets of being ready for PARCC testing. Technology-wise, I feel like the districts that I work with, we're ready. We partook in the infrastructure trials. We're ready. But now the other side of that is, are the teachers ready? And I think there's just a lot of FUD, right? A lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt because they haven't seen it. They haven't gone through it. They don't know what to expect. So there's that kind of, butterfly in your stomach, kind of what's going to happen, how am I going to be graded on this, and it's been in the news so much. It's just, I think it's going to be a lot easier once we've all there's going to be a sigh of relief at the end of the school year where, okay, we did it, now we can plan better for next year. We can develop the communication, the support plans around it because we've done it. And I think that's going to help a lot of districts going forward.
And here at Mechanicsburg, our PARCC testing day was last Thursday or Friday, I don't recall, due to the snow day, but I was actually not in favor of doing the tech testing day or whatever they called it because we tested last year and we didn't have any issues. So I thought it was kind of a, come on, we don't really need to test on this. But sure enough, like 8 minutes before everybody opened up their Chromebook, we had some sort of an HTTP error or DNS error, and it shut everything down and messed up our PARCC server. So I'm actually, in about 39 minutes, I'm going to a administrative meeting where I'm going to recommend that we actually take the test again. Not only to just drive home the fact that yes, our technology does actually work when there's no errors, but also to make those teachers feel more comfortable, because I honestly want to say about 60% of our teachers didn't have a good grasp on what was needed to do. So I didn't want to admit that at first, coming from a proud tech guy and a mad props for his own school and this is my house sort of thing. But now I see, yeah, testing and things like that are probably way more beneficial for districts to take part of. And the nice thing is, they set up that testing server on the PARCC side for us. You can test as many times as you want, as many times as you need to make sure you get that right. So all in all, I'm glad that they're at least allowing us to do that level of testing in the district. So
going back to TJ's point about teachers viewing technology as more important, I'm running into a lot of teachers who are for the first time ever asking the question, well, what grade or who's teaching this part of the technology? Do we have a plan? Do I need to teach everything to all my students? So I've been really talking to a lot of districts about developing scope and sequences, and I'm pretty much always amazed that they do not have a scope and sequence for technology, although they have it for every other subject. And I think that's part of the fear for some of the teachers, because they're afraid the students that they have never had any of this instruction, and they may be very competent and have the instruction, but there's no way for them to know that.
I was looking at exactly the same thing with our teachers. In fact, some districts had approached me about coming up with a plan for how you were going to teach technology, what was taught in which grade, and that the skills required for the PARCC assessment were not a bad starting point. And I went back and looked, and on the ODE website there is the standards that we had for I think it was K8 technology. There was never any test for it, but they did actually enumerate some standards. I think that was back in 2008. Well, I don't think they went any further than that, but I was thinking of trying to develop something based on that.
Well, John, I have a set that I did about 2 years ago, and I'm happy to share with people. I sort of let when the OD announced at eTech 2 years ago that the Silver Book was just fine and they did not really need to change it. I sort of let it out into the public, and I've been sharing it on a variety of platforms, on Edmodo nationally and internationally, and with some of our local teachers. So I have approximately a 60-page scope and sequence that I developed. Of course, the sequence needs to be adjusted by the districts, but I think the scope gives them a pretty good idea of the items they need to be covering, and then they can divvy them up how they want to. So I'll be happy to share that document.
New Jersey just updated their 2 standards for technology, 8.1 and 8.2 website, the NJDOA. They really did include a lot of the PARCC skills, but they also built on all of the skills in PARCC and added on global collaboration. And so I'm happy to see that they went ahead and updated the actual state standards. If you want to take a look at them, they're a pretty good read.
Yeah, Erica, if you have a direct link to that, unless it's just if it's easy to Google, that's fine. But if you have a direct link and maybe you want to throw that in the show notes, that way people later on can view the show notes and grab that link out of there. And plus, I would definitely like to look at that as well. Thank you.
I was just going to comment on what Anthony said. Another interesting thing, as we started to prepare teachers for the next generation assessments, we started to see meetings where you actually had all of the elementary faculty in one room together, and we were talking about the topic of technology. And so this was the first time that really we'd had this longitudinal discussion about who was doing what and where, and it becomes even more critically important then, because as they had shifted around the standards, they were teaching different things in different grades, and so that communication has become really important in their preparation for the new testing.
Are we all awake still?
We're just pausing for station identification. We have to do that every now and then, part of our public access charter. So it sounds like what we're hearing is a lot of positives, even though PARCC has been a challenge. We're hearing that you've got good discussions finally happening in districts where people are saying, okay, we need to talk about this. It's kind of forcing the hand of the schools to start talking about tech skills. Are we addressing tech skills in our classes? And because I don't know what it is like for you guys, but we saw around here a lot of that started getting cut. It's like budgets get tight, and it's like, well, what gets cut? And so you end up cutting electives, and technology skills get cut, and suddenly that's not really happening unless you've got maybe a teacher who's really excited about technology. And so if you have Mrs. So-and-so, then you'll learn this stuff, but if you don't, you might not see it. And schools are now backing up saying, okay, wait a second, that's not working. Where are we addressing these skills? And again, these are good things. These are things we should be doing anyway. Teachers should be using technology to supplement what's happening in their class. That's the whole idea of blended learning, and being able to say, okay, what does technology do well, and what does the teacher do better, and use technology for what it's good at to help supplement and to help do all this other stuff. So that's good. And I'm hearing, Erica, you said earlier about devices. This is causing a lot of devices to come into classrooms in schools. I know around here Chromebooks have been purchased in mass because of the ease of management, the low cost, and the ability to work well with PARCC. And so that's going to be a benefit outside of PARCC, beyond this, and then like you also mentioned, like Erica, you said about network, that people are updating their network, they're improving their Wi-Fi. So a lot of good things definitely have come out of it. Anything else on that front as far as, I mean, because I'm glad we're doing that. I'm glad we're looking at the positive as far as PARCC goes. I'll throw one out, and if you guys want to think of any other that you want to add to it, and I just think it's the whole concept of assessments, kind of rethinking assessment in the classroom, because it's easy to have assessment be focused on the chapter test, what happens at the end of the unit, with maybe not as much focus on formative assessments that lead up to that chapter test. And because we're talking about online assessments, we're talking about digital assessments, it becomes a whole lot easier to do these small little formative assessments during the course of a unit. If this was paper pencil, kids take a quick 5-question quiz, well then I've got to grade that, they don't get it back to tomorrow. But using any of the free online assessment tools that we have at our disposal, teachers can very quickly grade, automatically grade student quizzes, right away what the kids know, what they don't know, and that's fantastic for the teacher to be able to say, great, excellent, apparently that went well, or ooh boy, I need to reteach that, I need to circle back around and try that a different way. And it's great for the students because they can know, when I'm going home tonight, I realize, or when the class is over, I realize I got it, I understood that today, or I thought I got it, but I guess I didn't understand it. And all of that formative assessment, I'm starting to see a discussion on that. I'm seeing where we're saying, okay, online assessment, so let's use Google Forms, let's use Socrative, let's use Poll Anywhere, let's use Kahoot, let's use all these different tools, and let's start looking at more frequent online assessment being used for formative purposes, which can have a fantastic impact on instruction. So, hey, if that comes out of the whole PARCC movement as well, fantastic. I'm excited about that. Anything else, guys, as far as positives? We're all so positive. This is great. We're all happy about PARCC today. This is good. We're saying good things.
Well, I agree, Eric. It's forcing teachers who thought they couldn't make a screencast or they couldn't make a Google form to say, you know what, I'm going to have to do this because I want to model this for my students and prepare them. So we're seeing a lot of teachers using Google Forms, using Kahoot, using Camtasia to flip their classroom and to create a screencast and then embedding that in our learning management system. And because they are giving them practice. Every time you have your students access Google Drive, go to Newsela, access a Kahoot on their cell phone, or even access our learning management system, those are PARCC skills. They're dragging and dropping, they're logging in, they're highlighting, they're erasing, they're managing their content. So these are all things that teachers are saying, you know what, it's kind of a little bit pushed. I'm going to learn that soon. Well, I'm going to learn this now so that I can prepare my students for PARCC.
And one thing, too, you brought up the screen sharing, but I found that teaching administrators how to do that. Our assistant super, I had him go through and do videos on what the PARCC training site, to show teachers this is what you're going to do to start the test. This is how, you do student. It just kind of gives them an overview because he was trying to type out all these things and just was not cohesive to actually, for the teachers to learn anything. He did a couple videos, sent them out. They loved it. They could watch it at their own pace. So even for the, training out to teachers, I found that that's a much easier way to do that.
And actually, that's great information on the educational side. On the technical side, here in Ohio, they've actually promised a couple of $1 billion to schools to update their wireless and infrastructure to allow for more devices and other things like that. So for us, even though we have enough Wi-Fi to cover, the entire district, this money that the state is going to give us is going to allow us to take and put Wi-Fi in every classroom. And we had a slow rollout plan where we'd eventually get there, but the fact that the state's going to reimburse us to put it in every classroom over the summer is another good positive to add to this conversation. So.
This is Anthony. I did a little screen share with the link to the scope and sequence. If you might want to pop that up for a moment.
And if anybody's catching this audio only, because the podcast does run audio only, the web address Anthony was sharing was tiny.cc/tech12ss. So I believe that's, was that for 12 things? What's the 12SS stand for?
It's actually 12 things students need to know to be computer literate. That's what we called our scope of sequence.
Okay, but tiny.cc/tech12ss is the shortened URL to access Anthony's scope and sequence document. And then, so we also have the link from New Jersey, and we'll put that in the show notes as well. Excellent.
Thank you.
So do we want to kind of transition into what resources are available out there on the web for students and for teachers to help practice these types of assessments?
Sure, I think that sounds like a good idea. Do you want me to start?
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
All right, I'll hit my site real quick, and then I know John's got some fantastic things to share, and Erica, it sounded like you were talking about some good things as well. So let me go ahead and share my screen here. The website that I would point people to is NextGen, as in next generation, .apps.sparc, spelled SPARCC.org. And that actually already is in the show notes, so if you want to check that, you can access that there. But again, nextgen.apps.sparc.org. And one bonus point to the first person who can identify the font used on the website.
Star Trek Next Generation, of course.
And of course, I'm going, if I'm going to make a next generation assessment site, we're going to have a little bit of fun with it. I mean, come on. So yes, that is the next generation, Star Trek The Next Generation font that I have used for the website. Yes, that is correct. So basically, all I'll just mention real quick is the whole point of this site is to try to pull together resources to help students prepare for the types of things they're going to be seeing when taking next generation assessments. So that really is the focus of the site. It really does not veer much outside of that. And so what you'll see on the main page is just a little introduction about what these skills are. We've talked about those, but you can get a nice overview there. And kind of near the bottom, there is a slideshow here. And feel free to grab that at any point if you want. It's got some decent information in there about next generation assessment skills. We did a survey last year, and we've got survey results in there. A lot of stuff that was really eye-opening for us about what students do know and what they don't know, and what are the gaps between where they're at and where we'd like them to be. So that slideshow is available. Feel free to use that in any way that's valuable for you. And then after that, basically, this is just all resources. So, I mean, I'll just show a quick example. Obviously, no need to go through all those, but like if I go to math, grades 3 through 5, for example, you'll see that what I've done is I've broken up the page into a couple of sections. I begin with sample assessment items, followed by resources by tool, resources by topic, and then general resources. The idea being that the first section is any assessment items that have been released, whether it's by PARCC, so we've got like our new ones that have just come out, the math PBAs are now out, but any of the assessment tests, any of the sample tests out, but not just PARCC. I mean, I pulled from Smarter Balanced, Common Core Toolbox, EdSite, any kind of website out there that has a decent collection of assessment items. So this is good. This can really get you going to start with. But then, as we all know, you run out of questions. There's only so many sample questions out there. So then I've tried to pull together websites that mimic as close as I can the kinds of things they're going to see on these tests. So interactive calculators, equation editors, online graphing, virtual protractors, virtual rulers, and down the list, okay? And when you get to the bottom, it's just more general sites. But again, these are the sort of sites that if a teacher's saying, I'm looking for a good site for my kids to go to in math that's going to be PARCC-like, yeah, there's loads of wonderful, highly interactive websites out there. I've got like the Annenberg Learner Interactives, CricWeb, MathFrames, Showdoor, all those different sites out there are great for that. So that's the idea, and you're going to find those sort of things for math, language arts, science, and social studies broken up by grade band. Then I do have a page for general resources. So some of these are test-specific skills, multimedia skills like how to use a video and play and pause and scroll through it, text input skills, highlighting skills, even mouse skills for our younger students who will be using a mouse or a trackpad. All these fun mouse games that kids can play that are going to teach them to double-click and to drag and drop and so forth. The next tab over then is all about keyboarding, because obviously that's really important. Our students need to be able to type well. We don't want them taking this test and having all these great ideas in their heads that they don't get out because they get frustrated and they can't type fast enough, so they pick a shorter word or cut off a sentence. We really want them to get all those great ideas out. So keyboarding lessons, we've got all those linked in here, from Typing Web, Typing Club, Dance Mat Typing for younger students, and then a whole bunch of keyboarding games as well. And then the final section is about building your own assessments, and we've talked about that to a degree, that in addition to all the wonderful things that are already out there for us to be pulling from, we can be building our own assessments with Google Forms, EdSite, Edulastic, Socrative, Quizlet, Kahoot, on and on and on and on. Out of all of those, I think probably the most PARCC-like is probably EdSite. I don't want to say that authoritatively. I think there's some pros and cons to all of them, but EdSite is definitely doing a valiant effort to mimic a lot of those PARCC type questions, and so EdSite is a great resource if you haven't been there, to use assessments created by other educators. I think they've got easily over 8,000. I'm not sure now, it's probably higher than that because they're adding them all the time. They got like over 8,000 assessment items arranged by subject area and grade level. But then you can build your own too. You can make your own assessments. You can link them together. You can assign them to your students. It grades them for you. So that's really great if you want to get very PARCC-like, and it's totally free. Whereas Google Forms is fantastic as well for quick formative assessments, to be able to embed videos to mimic that sort of item in a test. So that's pretty much the idea of the site that I've put together there, the nextgen.apps.spark.org site. So definitely feel free to use any of that, and if you've got suggestions, there is a submit link on the very far right where you can say, hey, here's another awesome site I found. This really works well. I appreciate that. Those come in. I will add them to our lists here. So that is an option for folks if you're looking for something to help your students with those resources.
Eric, I just wanted to jump in real quick and say another tool that I think we've had some success with is PARCC, which probably everyone here might be familiar with, but they've got some really great PARCC-like assessments built into their tool, and if you're a Google Apps district, I really highly recommend you add that as one of your web apps.
That's an excellent point.
I agree with that as well. And I want to say thank you to Eric for your awesome site. I have submitted sites to you as well, and you inspired our website that we created for PARCC readiness. I'm going to share my screen quickly. We created a PARCC readiness site. Can you see it? No? I'm having technical difficulties.
I know we saw it there. It was there.
No, we can see it.
Okay. Eric needs to stick your screen.
Okay. Where we really broke down all the tools that we have access to in our district. This is really for our teachers, and you can see PARCC is one of them. We have a link to Eric's website, Next Gen Assessments, and we have all Edulastic, 10 Marks, EdSite. Our teachers love EdSite as well. The only thing I do have to say, again, going back to the math, is that it does take a teacher a really long time to take a problem, a PARCC-like problem on paper, and translate that into something and build their own question online using something like Edulastic. It just takes quite a bit of work and time for them to actually create an online question as opposed to a paper question. I think we have to be cognizant of that and give teachers time to actually build these assessments and questions.
Yeah, I agree. I've heard a lot of the same. So when it comes to EdSite, my encouragement for people is always start by using the ones that are there. Go ahead and just at least get into the site. Like I said, there's over 9,000 assessment items in there. Start using what they've got. But you're absolutely correct. I've created some assessment items in there, and yeah, this isn't pick A, B, C, D, and you're done. That's not that type of a question. They're much more involved questions. So creating them is also much more involved, and it's not just the mechanics of putting all that, which that's part of it. Getting the images uploaded and getting everything in, but it's also really thinking through: is this a higher level question? Writing good questions itself can be a challenge, and that's something that I know teachers have always worked on, is creating good questions. But we're being pushed to do questions that are much more that are higher level thinking than just recalling information.
This is Anthony. With some of the teachers who are sort of afraid to jump into all that, I've been telling them just a real quick, simple thing to start with is eliminate all your multiple choice, make them multiple multiples. Just that one small step is a giant leap for the students to start seeing that different type of question, and it's really not a lot of additional work. So they can start small and they continue to build, but just changing the whole mindset that we're not a multiple choice, true false examination skills.
I think it's interesting that some of the terminology that we've been using for years in education has been changed as a result of this online testing. You mentioned, Anthony, about multiple choice. I think they actually call it single choice, and the differentiation in the test being if you see a radio button. And again, radio button is a term any of us that are over 40 years old still remember the radios that had the radio buttons, but for the young kids of today, they don't remember what that was. So if you see a round, a question with round bullets next to it, it's a single choice. If you see a checkbox, then you're going to be asked to choose 2 or more answers. And it's quite important that the teachers start to create assessments of their own that incorporate this kind of testing and this kind of terminology. Another area of terminology is when we talk about the idea of highlighting some text. Highlighting in the PARCC assessment means something different than selecting. So if you select something, then you're going to either drag it or drop it, or you're going to select some blue text which will then turn yellow. And typically in the past, I think teachers have used selecting and highlighting interchangeably, and they actually mean different things. In the PARCC assessment, when you select some text, then a little highlighter will pop up and you can actually color it one of 4 colors. And I've been telling people that because yellow and blue mean something, that they should use the pink. And that was just a little workaround that I saw there. But that certainly was an interesting thing for people to consider. Do you want to bring up my website if you have a chance? I was going to try and share mine, but I don't think I can.
Yeah, I definitely think that'd be great to share yours. I can pull it up on my screen here, Eric, if you want to sticky me. I know that just sounds funny, doesn't it? Okay.
Yes, apparently Google got rid of that term. It's now called present, and I just have to present you. That's all.
Now, I prefer you sticky me, please. So if you would do that, that is now open.
You are sticky, sir.
Okay, John, you may describe your.
Okay, I will describe, and you can drive.
Yes, you got it.
Okay, so on the left-hand side is one place where you find the links to all the different tests, and I can officially announce that as of this morning, we now have a full set of links to all of the practice tests for both end-of-year and performance-based assessments. So the language arts end-of-year was added today. They opened up, the links were there on the PARCC website, but they were not active, and they made them active this morning. So that is something that they had been promising back in December, but we finally got now in the first week of February, we have a full set of practice tests. So these are the public practice tests that can be accessed in a web browser. They are different, I would emphasize, from the links if you're going to go in through Pearson Access Next and the tests that you create inside of there, which were the ones that were used for the testing last week, the infrastructure testing. And so there are some differences in that. If you go a bit further down on the left-hand side, I'll point out the text-to-speech stuff, which was only made live in the early part of January. And so definitely check out those and see what, in the PARCC assessment anyway, the text-to-speech looks like. My understanding is, in order to test the text-to-speech on the AIR side, you actually have to log in to a protected set or set up a testing session inside of the AIR environment in order to test that. A little bit further down there on the left there is the examples of the equation editor. They added those towards the end of December, and the blank samples, the idea being that the teacher could bring that up on a classroom computer and maybe create a question. I've seen some of them will do that as a Google Doc, and they will put the windows side by side with the equation editor and have the students then create the answer in the equation editor. And then there is an equation editor tutorial, which is a little bit further down there, which is links to a couple of questions that use the equation editor. The equation editor itself was changed, and there are actually two types of equation editor. There was one that has both text and numbers, and there's one that's just for putting numbers in, and they did simplify the interface a little bit. I think there was a lot of criticism that it was too hard for the students to understand, so they had made some changes to that. At the very bottom there are the buttons to the original tutorials that we had, especially the sample set tutorial, which is one that I would recommend that teachers follow. And it actually steps you through the TestNav environment and teaches you about all of the different tools. Let's scroll back up to the top again, and there is the OCBA Science and Social Studies, and those are all accessed through the online field test portal through that button there, and then listed are the different tests that in Ohio anyway each grade is going to be taking. So 4th grade social studies, performance-based and end-of-year, 5th grade science, 6th grade social studies, etc., down the line there. The high school ones are obviously available from grades 9 through 12. In the middle section is where I have some featured resources, and some of those are things that have been released in various places. My website has become sort of a nexus for information for both teachers, students, test coordinators, and tech coordinators. So I've just tried to put together as much information as I can from all of the different sites that are out there. Certainly I've got a lot of information that's on Eric's site. Erica, I'm going to add your site to my list as soon as we get done with this podcast. I just emphasize in the featured resources there, you've got the online training for test administrators, that is for TestNav and for PARCC. That's something that came out fairly recently and is something that most schools are going to be wanting to train their test administrators in order to be able to have them prepare and understand what they need to do. On the AIR side, the certification course there is quite nice. You can go through and actually have your teachers step through that, and they're online webinars that they can watch and get familiar with the AIR test environment. The two microphone icons there are the recent announcements for both Ohio's computer-based assessments and for PARCC, which are the two main areas that you will find newsletters and other information. So I've been haunting those two pages, getting the latest information seemingly on a daily basis. On the right-hand side, at the top there, this is all the latest news. So there's the end of year for English Language Arts is now available. That was today. They made math performance-based assessments available last week. There was some information on the infrastructure test, and I've added some information today to the tech coordinators page, which has some lessons learned. So for the tech coordinators that are interested in what information ODE gathered about any potential problems and issues that came up, those are all listed, including with TestNav 8.2, there are a lot of new error messages that will come out and a lot of those error messages are explained in that particular document. And then there's just more news on the right-hand side there as we go down through the month. If you want to scroll back to the top, and we'll just quickly look at the tabs. Items and tools is the second tab across, and basically each link here is a screenshot of what you could expect a question to look like. So, and it pops up in a little pop-up window. So there are examples of multi-choice, single choice, drag and drop, and these are designed for the teachers when they're initially describing what the next generation assessments look like, that they can bring up a screenshot and quickly show it to the kids so that they can get an idea of what to expect. The center section deals with the tools in the environment and what some of those look like. A lot of these are controlled by the personal needs profile, the PNP, that there's been a lot of talk about, and so you can see screenshots of what those look like. And on the right hand side I have what I call the key elements of what we're talking about and some of them we haven't really discussed yet. Thought to text is one that springs to mind. We're asking the kids to actually type into a text box an answer to usually a fairly long and involved question that may have involved them reading 3 or 4 different pieces of literature and then responding in an essay form. And for some of them, you don't want it to be the first time that they're doing this, because that's really where the rubber hits the road, when you have to actually turn what you're thinking into typing. And oftentimes they don't have a revision process in mind, so they'll just do a brain dump and then click and go to the next question. And that's not them. They're not checking for spelling or punctuation. So we need to give them authentic classroom experiences that give them the opportunity to try this text or thought-to-text concept that we're talking about there. Some of the other ones, again, we've mentioned the equation editor. It's huge. They need to have practice in using that. Multi-part questions, Anthony and Eric both mentioned those. One question is dependent upon the next question, and in that particular screenshot there you can see you've got both single choice at the top and multi-choice at the bottom, and the test-taking skill is that the bold text that you have in the question, they need to really read that carefully. It says which 2 quotations best develop the central idea. So there is a lot of packed into that. Go to the top again, and OCBA, Science and Social Studies. So that's the second half of it, and this deals with the interface for the AIR. American Institute of Research is the vendor that's providing these, and the questions are fairly similar. They look different, but they work the same way. One of the key elements that I will mention in this particular one is, and I did note, Eric, in your survey that you did of the students in Northeast Ohio, a lot of them complained about how hard it was to delete an item in the AIR assessments, and so I have identified that also as a key element. They need to understand that you select the delete button, and then your cursor is a delete cursor, and then you can delete the item out of the test, and a lot of them found that quite difficult to do.
Hey, John, I don't mean to cut you off, but we kind of need to wrap up our main topic for the podcast.
Yep, that's fine. Those are the main things that I wanted to cover.
John, I just wanted to mention one thing. I think that page you just showed should be mandatory for every teacher to be showing their students, because we found out that they did not understand the different types of controls that were there.
And for anybody that didn't catch the web address for this, it's very similar to the web address I gave out for our NextGen site. It is nextgen.nwoca, which is NWOCA.org. So nextgen.nwoca, NWOCA.org, and that's all in the show notes as well. But fantastic site that John has put together there.
Absolutely, John. You are simply missing just this Star Trek Next Generation font across the top, and I think Eric Kurtzen probably helped you out with that.
Yes.
So, just friendly amendment to your.
That PARCC site reminds me of the Dungeons and Dragons Compendium. It's got like everything on it, so pretty amazing. And just so I can throw that out there too, the link for our site for Wes Morris's PARCC Readiness site is links.wmrhsd.org/PARCC Readiness. So
Well,
we'll put that in the show notes.
I don't know, Sean. Worst tabletop game ever, though. I don't know.
Well, I was going to say the Necronomicon, but I don't know if anybody would catch the reference to Evil Dead, so I figured I would leave that.
We're going to do park LARPing this weekend. Anybody joining me? Okay, I've gone
All right,
too far. There is a line. We now know what it is.
We're going to play Settlers of Catan after this podcast ends, if anybody wants to play that. So.
Well, now, we all know the only technology they need to know is Oregon Trail.
Yeah. I died of dysentery quite often in that game, so. All right, well, I guess I want to just open it back up to our three guests and see if there's anything else that you'd like to add or any updates about PARCC that you feel that anyone in New Jersey or Ohio needs to know, and then we're going to quickly cover our news and our awesome thing of the week, I think.
I'll speak up first. Next generation instruction has to be stressed, and they need to visit John's symbols pages.
Yep, I second that.
Erica or John, anything else you'd like to add?
I think you should definitely run the infrastructure trial, for sure, even if you only do it with some students and not real students, because we ran into a couple of issues yesterday that we didn't foresee, even though we thought we were doing everything correctly. So definitely run a trial.
I would agree with Erica. We saw some interesting results from the infrastructure trial last week. Even districts, the Chromebook has been pretty bulletproof as a platform, but even some people had some difficulty with the imaging, and so half of their machines were imaged and the other half were not. We also saw a major problem with Internet Explorer and the Sophos antivirus, and a lot of our districts up in northwest Ohio use that antivirus, and so they ran into a big problem, ended up having to use Firefox instead of Internet Explorer. And apparently Firefox can be, you can push policies out in some form similar to what you can do with Internet Explorer, so it was a viable alternative.
We ran straight Netscape Navigator and did not see any problems. So
now was it gold? Did you use
it was the gold version, yes.
Netscape Gold. Oh, yeah, excellent. Perfect.
I have the box version at home right now.
What's Netscape?
We're gonna try to use Proctor caching with CompuServe, so I think it'll work out pretty well. All right, I want to thank our guests. I want to thank Erica Hartman and Anthony Leskery and John Mansell-Platel for joining us today. Thank you guys very much for taking the time out of your busy schedules and contributing to our podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think what we're going to do next, hopefully very quickly, because I think Eric has some impending thing he needs to do, which is to cover the news, so any upcoming conferences or professional development, and then we'll do our awesome thing of the week.
All right, well, I can go ahead and run through a couple of news items, but if you guys want to jump in as well on any of these, please do so. As far as news items, the big things would be some upcoming conferences. A couple of them I can speak to. Others you guys may need to chime in on, but the first bunch of these are very Ohio-centric. Many of the folks that are on the podcast are Ohio people, so these might relate more to our local folks. But we do have the OETC conference, which is next week, February 10th through 12th. Definitely look forward to seeing lots of people there, so if you're attending that, please look. I think, as far as I know, we'll all be there. Sean, you're not going to be able to make it, correct? But everybody else, unless somebody tells me no, I'm looking down the panel here, I think we're all going to be at the conference, so definitely hook up with us if you can. What's up, G?
I will not be there, Eric. Apparently they have
no.
Some law that prohibits me from coming again, so yeah, whatever.
Oh, it's not going to be the same. Wow.
No.
Okay, well, so cancel your plans, do something else next week.
No ETC.
Will not be at OETC. It's no ETC now. That's what it is. But for those that will be there, please feel free to look us up. Many of us will be there doing lots of presentations and hanging out and stuff. Other things to draw attention to in Ohio, at least, there's a brand new conference called NEOTI. That's Northeast Ohio Technology Innovators in Education. This is going to be up in Beechwood, I believe. I've got that right. Let me double check. Yes, up in Beechwood. And this is free. It's on a Saturday, February 28th. And first year for this, I would definitely encourage people to check that out if you're looking for a great free tech conference. I know I'll be there and look forward to seeing some people there as well. Shortly after that, there's the NeoTech Conference, which has been around for many, many, many years. This is held at Kent State University, and that's going to be March 20th. Again, a free conference, and that seems to be a theme with a lot of these, trying to offer free conferences for people for a day-long conference. And I know this one's way, way, way off. It's not till August. But another free conference is the PARCC conference that Anthony and I helped put on. That is August 7th at the R.G. Drake Career Center in Massillon, Ohio. But that's not until August 7th. But that, again, is a free conference, and we definitely encourage people to keep an eye on that as we get closer to it. I do see.
Go ahead. Before you go on, I think in order, August 11th, Shelby City Schools is having their Shelby Learning Summit. This is actually the first announcement of it public. I was holding out for this. So we're going to be bringing in presenters from all over. Look for more information in the coming podcasts and Twitter. You can go on there. 97 tickets left, that's all. So apparently this cat got out of the bag on 3 of those, but we definitely encourage you. We're going to be sending out our call for proposals here pretty soon. So I look forward to sharing more information on the next podcast.
And we are not endorsing putting cats in bags. I want to just want to go on the record. Do not put your cats in bags. And then the last thing on there, somebody threw on ISTE, and if anybody wants to mention that, Philadelphia, June 28th through July 1st is the ISTE conference. Anybody have anything to add to that?
I was just going to say, I think the early bird registration is open, and it's, I think, what did you say, June 28th through July 2nd or 1st?
July
there
1st.
It is, yeah, July 1st. So I know I'm going, it's in Philadelphia this year, so I don't know if anybody else will be, but
yes,
yeah, it should be a good conference.
There's one other conference we sort of missed, June 8th, the CREATE conference up at Northwest Ohio at Anthony Wayne High School.
Yeah, that's right.
And createconference.net is the site.
Excellent. All right, where can I get some glasses like that? Look at that, guys.
So steampunk.
I was going to say, that's like the
steampunk
steampunk Google
man.
glass.
I'll go there if that's what I get. So anyway, though, so that's some upcoming things. Definitely be great if people want to plug into any of those. We definitely look forward to seeing people at some of those conferences if you can be there.
All right, and we're going to do our awesome thing of the week, and if you guys don't mind, it's all right if I share mine first. Is that cool?
Go for it.
Absolutely.
All right, the one that I wanted to share, and I saw this on Google+, and this is something that Chris Kraft created, and I don't know, for those of you who listen to our podcast, Chris Kraft is a Google certified teacher and trainer, I believe. He's in, I think, is he in Georgia? Eric, you might know better than I am. I think he's in Georgia or North.
Well, I
in
thought
the south somewhere.
I thought you were talking about Chris Cross.
No.
Make the jump.
No.
No, I was confused there. Okay, so sorry. Go ahead.
So anyway, so what this does is pretty simple. If you're presenting and you're using your Chrome browser, you install the extension, and when I click on it, you've got this keystroke combination that you can set up, and he recommends using all 3 keystrokes in case you've got 1 or 2 already set up for something else that you do. But what happens is when I press that in succession, so if I hold Shift, Alt, and C, I get this little pop-up on my screen. Can you guys see that?
Yep.
Okay, and then I just type my text. So let's say I want to share out a link. So let's say the State of Tech. And then I hit return. It makes it go full screen, which might be kind of hard to see here.
Cool. The Stadio F Tech.
Yeah, the Stadio of Tech. Yes, that's how we're known in
FTech.org. we are back and we are rebranded.
And then you hit return again and it disappears. So I thought that was really a great extension. Again, not only if you're presenting, for example, at OETC or ISTE, but also if you do any kind of professional development, or even if you're a classroom teacher, if you want to quickly share out a link or some text. Again, it's called Crafty Text. The website is craftytext.com if you want to click the link on Chris's website to install the extension.
Good deal. Eric, do you want to go next, or want me to?
Sure, I can jump on in there.
All right.
What I am going to share is MailChimp. Anybody here use MailChimp? Yes, several of you? Fantastic. I mean, this is not a new thing, so, but it's new to me, so it's good. Maybe it's new to some other people too. Maybe some folks have not used this. Basically, here's the idea. We all want to communicate. We want to get information out to other people, and so, we tried a number of ways. We've got, Twitter, and we've got Google+, and we have blog posts, and we've got Google Communities, and we've got, all that kind of stuff. And that's great. That's fantastic. But I started getting a little nervous a while ago that I might be bothering some people who, get email or who get stuff from me multiple times because we've got, mailing lists, internally here, and we've got the Google Community page and all this and all that. Then I was worried some people may not be getting information at all that I want to send out. They may be getting missed. And so I decided, okay, are there any good options for somebody to opt in? If somebody's like, I want to receive information from you, and I want it to come to my email box. I want it to show up. I don't want to go, oh, I should go check out, Eric's Twitter feed, or I should go check out his community page on Google. Say every now and then I just need you to smack me upside the head and say, here you go, here's some information, and just put it right in my inbox. And so I started looking around for that, and MailChimp seemed to be a really good option for that. And we're using it here at Spark for a newsletter that we send out pretty much every 2 weeks, and I've really been happy with this. Basically, MailChimp is free, so just MailChimp.com, and what's free to a limit. I mean, you can pay for it as well if you go above a certain limit, but it's free, and it's free for up to, see if I can remember this now, 2,000 signups. So you can have 2,000 people signed up on your list, and you can send 12,000 emails a month. So that's like 6 emails to those 2,000 people. That's pretty good. That's an awful lot. And so basically, what we've done is if you go to our tech integration site, which is, let me see if I've got that up there. Is that showing up for you guys now? Sparklines. Okay, excellent. So at TI, which is tech integration, ti.apps.spark.org. That takes you to our main page. That's just the tech integration page. From there, there's a newsletter link that if you click on, it'll show you the Sparklines newsletter, and you can say click here to subscribe, and it takes you out to a MailChimp page where you can sign up for the newsletter. And what we do is basically just send out, I'll show you a copy of an old one, we just send out a newsletter about every 2 weeks that say, oh, here's some upcoming webinars we're running, here's some recorded webinars, here's some stuff on our Google user group, upcoming conferences, some other important links, just things like that to keep people in the loop. And it's so easy to do. They've got really nice templates you can use. You can modify them. It's all drag and drop. It's just really nice. So rather than a standard email, you send out a very professional-looking e-newsletter. And then there's tons of analytics. So I can come in here and I can look at the different campaigns, how many subscribers, how many people have opened and clicked on things in there. I can go in, check on the list. I can run reports. It's just really, really, really easy to use. So I guess what I'm saying is if you're looking for an option to communicate with people in something other than just a standard email, you want a nice, attractive-looking newsletter, and you want to be able to do it for free. You want to give them the ability to opt in and opt out and have it just show up in their inbox. MailChimp is nice, it's easy, it's free, and so far I've been really pleased with it. I don't know if anybody else has experience with it that you'd want to say anything about that, but I've definitely been happy with it.
Yep, I use it. It's good stuff.
Yeah, good. All right. What do you got for us today?
Well, unfortunately, I'm going to have to scoot out because I have an administrative meeting to go to that I'm now 12 minutes late for, so I've got to speed things up. But I recently went to the Michigan Google conference, and what I presented on stage actually won as far as the best app to use award, or could have just been me, I don't know. But the solution I provided was called Plickers. That's Plickers, Plickers.com. And what you do is it's a smartphone app as well as a as well as a piece of paper that you print out. And all it is just fancy QR codes. Each kid has their own QR code, and what they do is they hold this QR code, and based on how they hold it and rotate it, that gives them A, B, C, or D. And so what it is just a quick and easy way to do formative and summative assessment in the classroom in sort of a low-tech version. It's still high-tech because, you know, the teacher or whoever's doing the presentation has a device of some sort, iPad, Android tablet, smartphone, whatever. They can also present it on the board and get questions as well. So it's a very cool, very free solution to use in schools, and I couldn't recommend it enough. That's Plickers, PLICKERS.com.
Excellent, nice.
That's really neat. So it's paper clickers.
Yes.
That's how they get the name, paper clickers.
Yep. And you know they're going to remain absolutely free. I've contacted the company. The only thing they're going to do is add additional features for money. So that's the that's eventually what they're going to. So yeah.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Cool. I'm going to hurry up, rapid fire. This is something I just found today. It's called Bunker. It's supposed to be the PowerPoint killer on the web. Pretty cool features. You can see the interface here. Add a slide. You could add text, images, videos. You can add social, so you can embed different social pages, Pinterest, GitHub, all the different information. You can embed different charts from different infographics, things like that. It's just kind of a fresh new look at a way to present. Really easy, super fast, easy to add code, your own embed stuff. An article. I mean, there's just a lot of cool things that you can do, and it's embeddable presentation with Google Presentations and Prezi and every other tool out there. I just figured I wanted to share one more presentation tool with everybody. So that's mine. Good to go.
Well, I've got a rather boring one, but being a person that can never spell in school, I like dictionary programs, and there's two that I especially like. Again, you just have to highlight the word, right-click on it, and it brings up the tool. And the one I like the most for Chrome is called Lookup Definitions. And the reason why I like is that you can choose how many different dictionaries, encyclopedias, thesaurus, sci that show up when you right-click, so you can go to any of those. So if you want to sticky me on the screen there, I had to do a quick screenshot because it ran away and didn't want to display right. But I really like lookup definitions, and then also I like the free dictionary, TFD, for Firefox as a plugin.
Great. Good deal. Thanks for contributing. We appreciate that.
All right. Well, I think that's it for our podcast, and I want to thank our hosts as well. And our next topic apparently is Google Wave, so be looking for that episode sometime in the year of 2015. If you haven't heard of Google Wave, it's a new beta tool that Google is now offering its users. So I think it's going to be a very informative and exciting session or podcast. All right. Eric, do you want to take everyone out?
Quickly taking us out, thank you for watching The State of Tech. This has been the State of Tech podcast, back from the dead after 2 years. If you want to contact us, you can always contact us at 513-318-TECH. You can shoot us an email at thestateoftech@gmail.com, or you can find us on the Twitters at The State of Tech. We have a Google Plus page, as well as our blog, which is thestateoftech.org. So this has been The State of Tech, and it has been a walk in the park. Thanks for watching The State of Tech.